In CIST 2611, Chapter 2, we'll look at network security threats. Our learning objectives for this chapter are to recognize the impact that malicious exploits and attacks have on network security. The key concepts include hackers and their motivations, the hacking process, hardware failures, physical threats, accidents, and other disasters, some common types of malware, and social engineering practices and their impact on network security. So, first, we'll look at a diverse uh, array of reasons why individuals may engage in hacking activities. It may be the thrill, the adrenaline rush, and excitement that comes with successfully navigating through security systems. Could be a passionate hobby for individuals that may be fascinated with security, with technology. Could be the challenge of breaking into a secure system that motivates the hackers. They view cybersecurity as a complex puzzle to solve. Some hackers may do it from peer pressure from within their communities, where the approval of their peers become their driving force. They may seek validation, recognition from the hacker community. It may be for the street cred, the credibility within their hacking circles. Hacking can be uh, a means to elevate one's status in an online community. Some hackers engage in cybercrime to reap the monetary benefits through theft, fraud, or ransom. It may be an attack on a perceived social injustice. Some hackers may see themselves as a digital vigilante. So they target those that they perceive as engaging in those social injustices or unethical practices. The sense of power and control that's gained from successfully compromising systems, those attract certain hackers. And like I said, financial gain. Um, Sometimes hacking is just the means to get that financial gain. So this may include stealing sensitive information or conducting cyber attacks for that monetary rewards. Now there are various different reasons, primary types of hackers. You have your recreational hackers who have the enjoyment of learning and exploring, particularly within the realm of computing technology. You have the opportunistic hackers. These hackers are timid and they're not likely to initiate an attack, but they're ready to seize an opportunity if it presents itself. And then you have your professional hackers. These are criminals whose career objectives is to compromise IT infrastructures. Now, understanding what draws the attacker's attention, this provides valuable insights into cybersecurity. So some of their preferences may be easy assets. These are targets that are easily exploitable. They provide a quick return on investment. Um, it may be something that offers financial or barter benefits, including funds, cryptocurrency, credit cards, bank accounts. It also may be the control of networks that grants the hackers significant influence. Unique targets. These are challenging and complex infrastructures that stand out from the ordinary. Uh, these may pose a challenge due to their sophisticated nature of the networks. Also, easy targets. These are IT infrastructures and elements that lack proper security measures. These hackers may exploit the vulnerabilities in these um, under secured systems. It allows them to seek easy access and to compromise those systems. Now, in today's world, we're exploring threat sets coming from both on site employees and external. So we look at our on site employees. These are employees that with physical access to the facility. Now, these pose a potential risk through unauthorized entry controls that could lead to physical damage or theft. A way you can help secure against on-site employees being a threat is through your security policy, your network design, the infrastructure deployment, and ongoing system management. This should all account for potential internal threats. So, by putting in a robust access control and monitoring mechanisms, this is something that's very important to help secure your facilities, your network from on site employees. Now, some common threats to network security include insider threats. These are disgruntled employees who believe they've been wronged by the organization. You can help mitigate those risks. Now, these may also be the contract workers, but you can help mitigate those risks through monitoring employee activities, implementing strict access controls, and also fostering a positive work environment. Now, the external threats, these are your hackers. These are individual or groups from outside the organization that seek unauthorized access um, or they are engaging in malicious activities. Now, for the external threats, you need to make sure that you have firewalls, intrusion detection systems, and also conduct regular security audits. These are something that are going to be essential to defending against external threats. Next, we're going to look at the steps in hacking, the 5 phases of hacking. We'll start off with reconnaissance. This is what initiates the hacking process, and it's the art of inspecting or exploring. Reconnaissance will also be referred to as footprinting, discovery, research, or information gathering. So, some examples of reconnaissance activities may be going through uncovering information available on search engines that's related to the organization. They may analyze the content and structure of the organization's official website, examine financial data or public records for valuable information. So this is going to set the stage for the next phases for the hacking process. We'll now move into scanning. This is using various tools to confirm the information that was gathered during the reconnaissance. Now, during this process, you may discover live and active systems within that digital landscape. These scanning techniques include things such as a ping sweep or port scanning. So where you send the echo requests from multiple hosts to identify live systems, or port scanning where you examine open ports on the live systems to access any vulnerabilities. The next step is the enumeration. This is the process of discovering and listing potential targets for attacks. So with this, the hackers aim to gather significant details about that target. They're seeking the vulnerabilities for potential successful attacks. Some activities that may happen during enumeration includes the probing of open and closed ports. They're looking for potential entry ports. Excuse me. So when you have an open port, that indicates a service is running, and that provides a potential avenue that could be exploited. They also may do banner grabbing, which is a probing services to take information about them. So they extract the banners. When they're extracting banners, this helps hackers gain specific details about the services running behind open ports. Now, in the attacking phase, this is the briefest phase in the hacking process because a successful attack can be executed in a matter of seconds. So we'll look at some of the key aspects of the attacking phase. First, keep in mind, like I said, it's a swift execution. So a successful attack is executed with precision, and it often takes just mere seconds to accomplish. Now, the post-attack activities, happens after a successful attack. The hackers swiftly moved over to post-attack activities. This is securing your gains, maintaining access, and concealing traces of the intrusion. So some of the activities that may take place in the post-attack activities include the privilege escalation. So they elevate access privileges to gain deeper control over the system. It may be that more hacker tools are added to the system. They may create a re-entry point, create a back door. It's a hidden entry point that gives them future access. And of course, they want to remove the evidence of the hack. So they erase the traces of the intrusion to evade detection. Now, also with the post-attack activities, the hackers have also planned for what happens if the attack fails. So you have a failed attack response. So if that attack fails, the hackers may modify their approach and relaunch the attack. They may return to enumeration and select a new point up for the assault. And they also may have a fallback attack, um, which is going to be an alternative strategy um, for trying to gain access if their initial attack fails. Now, we got some common IT infrastructure threats. First is hardware failure or other physical threats. Common culprit of this would be like a hard drive failure that may cause, frequent downtimes, may cause a potential disruption to the overall system. You have weather events, floods, rain, fire, hurricanes, tornadoes. And each one of these events would have a different type of fallback, a different type of backup, whether it's backing up the hard drives, having different plans for natural disasters, and also accidents. These is common accidents may include like spills, trips, equipment damage. This is unintended incidents that disrupt the operations, human errors that may lead to the system interruptions. Now, malicious code is malware. So we're going to look at how it is distributed and some of the effects. So malware may be through software downloads such as Trojan horses that's disguised as legitimate software. Maybe a drive-by downloads, which is silent installations that's done without the user's consent. May come in the form of a phishing attack through emails or an attachment, malicious attachment through an email. It could be from a website, um, file transfers, or it could be a flaw in the software. It could be a zero-day exploit, which targets undiscovered vulnerabilities. Now, some effects of the malware may include data loss, exposure change, poor system performance, pop-up ads, or your system becomes a bot or a zombie. Now, as your organization grows, it's essential to find the right balance between expansion and security. So we'll look at some of the implications here. So a measured, slightly slower growth rate. This enables concurrent development of the network and security, and it gives the organization more likely to provide a sustained growth and longevity. Now, the failure to address security issues in a period of explosive growth is more likely to cause a catastrophic failure. So, you want to implement strategic planning that integrates security measures as an internal part of the growth strategy. So, it's also something that needs to be continuously evaluated. So, you want to regularly assess and adapt security protocols that's going to align to those evolving needs of the organization and as it expands. Now, it's important to understand the differences between security in wired and wireless networks. This is very important for safeguarding its potential threats. So, we'll look at some of the distinct characteristics of each of these. The wired networks gives you a localized security challenge. So, you're primarily going to face the security challenges from within the physical premises. So, threats are often going to be required to have proximity to exploit those vulnerabilities. So you can mitigate some of these issues by having physical controls that will limit external threats. Now, the wireless networks also give remote accessibility. So you have potential new remote attacks from external locations. Now, the accessibility from that distance makes these wireless networks more susceptible to a broader range of external threats than an internal or wired network. So, wired networks, the security measure for this is you want to make sure that you emphasize the physical security controls. Also, you want to have internal safeguards that prevents localized threats set up as well. While the wireless network, you want to make sure that you have a robust encryption protocol set and implement measures to mitigate those remote attacks, such as strong authentication and encryption to help stop the external attacks through a wireless network. Now, eavesdropping is listening in on communications. It's covertly monitoring those communications, and it could be in data packets or it could be in voice traffic. There are tools that can capture those packets. So some of the packet capturing tools include sniffers, silent watchers. Those are silent watchers. What they do is they record network traffic. They may eavesdrop on the data packets, like I said, or the voice traffic. Now, this is something that can be happen in both a wired and wireless connections. Now, to prevent eavesdropping, you want to use encrypted protocols. This acts as a shield against those uh, packet sniffers, and it makes that any data that is intercepted unreadable. A hijack and replay attacks. Okay, so the hijack attack begins with a hacker. He silently watches a communication session using a network sniffer. And the hacker then disconnects one of the session's hosts and assumes its identity. Then crafted packets are going to be injected in the communication stream as the hacker is going to take control of the session. And then the session of the unsuspecting host um, from there is taken over, and that leaves the network vulnerable to the hijacker's whims. Now, in a replay attack, this is also known as a playback attack. This involves capturing network traffic echoes using a network sniffer. So then the hacker is going to retransmit the captured traffic back onto the network at a later time. And the goal is to gain interactive or session access to a system. An assertion attack, we'll start off talking about SQL injection. This exploits vulnerabilities in a web application to manipulate the data through crafted SQL queries. A cross-site scripting. This happens when an attacker injects malicious scripts into a web page, and that is viewed by other users. IDS insertion. This involves deceiving security measures by injecting false data, which potentially leave that IDS as inoperable. Rogue device insertion. This is introducing unauthorized devices to a network, and they masquerade as legit devices. Fragmentation attacks. They target the fragmented offset features of an IP packet. And this occurs when numerous network links interconnect to form a global infrastructure. Now, some types of fragmentation attacks include overlapping attacks. This results in full or partial overriding of datagram components and it creates new datagram from parts of previous datagrams. The overrun that can result in excessively large datagrams. Now, there are other fragmentation attacks, such as a denial of service or the confusion of the security systems. So, those attacks can confuse the IDSs and firewall filtering mechanisms. Now, buffer is an allocated portion of the memory that's intended to store input data during a program execution. So, for a buffer overflow, this is a security breach resulting in inadequate programming practices and quality control. This attack involves injecting more data into the buffer than it can handle, causing the overflow. And this can lead to a system crash, and that compromises the stability of the software or even the entire system. Now, some mitigation strategies for buffer overflows include rigorous testing and quality control during the development phase of the software to help identify and rectify any buffer overflow vulnerabilities. And also having regular code reviews and sticking to secure coding practices, this can help prevent these vulnerabilities as well. Session hijacking, spoofing, and man-in-the-middle attacks. Session hijacking refers to unauthorized takeover of an established communication session between a client and a server. Now, often this is after a client has successfully authenticated with a server. The attacker does not directly acquire the credentials of the client. Some techniques include DNS spoofing, poisoning, ARP spoofing, and rogue DHCP, and that's to manipulate the session's route to the pathway. Now, vulnerabilities of this is the host using the TCP/IP without encryption. They are susceptible to session hijacking. And encryption is going to be the most effective protection against session hijacking. Now, spoofing attacks, these involve the falsification of information, particularly the identity of the source. So this targets can include email addresses, MAC addresses, IP addresses. So the hackers impersonate authorized users to deceive that system. These are difficult to prevent and a challenge to detect as well. And detection involves monitoring normal traffic for addressing any anomalies. Now, the man-in-the-middle attacks, we'll talk about ARC spoofing, the address resolution protocol spoofing. This involves manipulating the MAC address request process. So the hacker computer uses a server's MAC address, intercepts the traffic that's intended to the actual server. DNS poisoning is another one we'll talk about. This compromises the domain name system server, and it plants fake FQDN to IP mapping records. So when the user queries, they receive false data from manipulated DNS servers. With cover channels, we'll talk about covert channels. These are hidden, unknown, unique, a typical pathway of information transfer. A timing channel. These channels convey information through timed and synchronized activities. Think of this as like Morse code, where that information is transmitted through the carefully timed sequence of dots and dashes. A storage channel. These operate by conveying information through unseen or undiscovered locations. So examples of this may be a slack space, which utilizes unused portions of storage space, or flash memory, which conceals information within that flash memory. Now, a couple of availability attacks and network resource attacks we'll talk about include the denial of service. The objective of the denial of service attack is to disrupt or delay legitimate access to a resource. This is the so a couple of methods. This is the exploitation of vulnerabilities, or you generation of excessive traffic to overwhelm the system. Now, these are some of the fallback options that we talked about when the hackers can't find that vulnerability to exploit. Um, so this may be with a way they attack is going through the denial of service or distributed denial of service attack. This is a massive and distributed process. This involves agents, bots, and zombies. It's malicious code implanted on victim systems. Now, when these are executed, these attacks are executed through a network of compromised systems across the internet. As I said, this once again, this is something you may see as the fallback option for hackers when they cannot pull off their initial attack. Now, keep in mind that hacker tools can be any software. Any software can be used as a hacking tool. This ranges from operating system utilities to commercial applications to even custom code and more. The best way for defense against hacker tools is whitelisting. This is a defense strategy that involves maintaining a list of approved software executables. So how it works is you incorporate the list. So you have the system has an approved list of software that's allowed for execution. And it also blocks any unauthorized software. So any application that's not on the whitelist is blocked from running. Now the benefits of this that it does restrict execution to known approved software. And it mitigates the risk of unauthorized or malicious tools running on the system. So this is the best way to defend against hacker tools is by using whitelisting. So now we're going to talk about social engineering. That's an art that exploits the human element to breach security. So it's the art of manipulating or exploiting those human natures to get some type of action or some type of information divulged that compromises security. In this, humans are the focal point because they are identified as the weakest link and are more susceptible to manipulation. Now, some techniques that may be used may be impersonation. So the attacker may pretend to be someone of authority. They may request assistance or favors. It may be for social validation, that they're doing this to offer validation to gain trust. And also creating urgency. They induce a sense of urgency. It may be, one of the most well-known social engineering attacks is a phone call where they tell them that, that they have to have this. They work for the vice president and he needs this information right now. Other techniques may include dumpster diving, reconnaissance, cold calling. So all this is just trying to gain information as part of that footprinting, as part of the reconnaissance to get the information to start the attack. Now, the best defense for social engineering is user training and awareness. So you want to train the users to recognize social engineering tactics and create a culture of skepticism and verification. You want to verify that that phone call is actually from the CEO. You want to verify that the information needed is going to the person that has the authorization to have that information. So it's turned by understanding and educating ourselves about social engineering, we can then reinforce that the human firewall against these tactics. So in chapter 2, we've looked at the hackers and their motivations. Whether it's the thrill, the hobby, challenge, peer pressure, social validation, street cred, status, money, maybe addressing a perceived social injustice and power. We've looked at different types of hackers that include the recreational, opportunistic, and professional. We've talked about the hacking process: reconnaissance, scanning, enumeration, attacking, and then the post attack activities. We've talked about hardware failures and physical threats, accidents, and other natural disasters, and their impact on network security. We've discussed a wide range of common types of malware, whether from software downloads, emails, malicious websites, file transfers, or flaws in software. We've also talked about the social engineering practices and their impact on network security efforts, manipulating and exploiting human nature to compromise security, whether this is through impersonation, asking for favors, social validation, or creating the urgency, dumpster diving, reconnaissance, and also code calling. So, by understanding these um, facets of network security, this equips us to fortify our networks against a multitude of threats. So, we need to stay informed and proactive. This is something that's key to maintaining and securing our digital environment. So we want to make sure that we safeguard this environment, that we protect the integrity, confidentiality, and availability of our networks.